Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Romance Class podcast. Romance Class is a community of Filipino authors of romance in English, the readers of the books, and fellow creatives who help us make the stories that we love. This is the podcast's fifth season, and we will continue to talk about romance themes, tropes, media, with authors, readers, and fellow creatives. This season, we will be exploring topics that influence what we consume and what we create. Um, as Filipinos, on every platform, Filipinos are a huge segment of romance media on the consumer and creator side. But who thinks of us and what we need as creators and the audience? Tayo-tayo rin lang, friends. The Romance Class podcast is produced by Tanya Arpa and Mina V. Esguerra. Before we start, we would like to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Head over to kilik.pub/YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and also click on the bell to be notified when a new video is coming up. My name is Mina V. Esguerra. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm hosting the episode today. This episode is called Writing Heat Level 3 or Writing on Page Sex When You're Filipino. On the panel and contributing to this episode are romance class authors who are Filipino romance authors who have written and or edited sex scenes in romance books. Yes, Filipino authors write romance novels with sex scenes. It's not just our community that does this, but there are published Tagalog romance novels and erotic fiction imprints that have been doing this for years. If you expand your definition of Filipino romance to serial fiction and fan fiction, there would be even more. But there's a persistent misconception among readers, writers, and the academe that we don't write sex. And you can tell right away who isn't reading romance when you hear them say that. We write it, it's in published work, but the publishers don't talk about it or market it because even if they're willingly making money from it, maybe they're not always ready to defend it. What we end up with is knowledge about writing sex scenes in romance that pretty much stays within writing communities and is difficult to then react to and learn from, and also difficult to find what's excellent if this is the kind of thing you actually want to read. So, in romance class, we as a community decided that a romance book was going to have certain elements, but sex would not be a required element. We have a heat level scale that ranges from 0, which means no sex on or off the page, to 4, which is erotic romance, and only one author has actually written heat level 4. We've found it helpful as authors and readers to determine where in the scale our book is and marketing and selling it accordingly. Today, we will be talking to authors who write Heat Level 3, ask them about how they feel about writing it, and how readers have responded to their work. Please welcome to the episode Layla Tanjutco, Chiyu Rodriguez, and Carla de Guzman. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Nice seeing
Hi.
everyone again at this time.
Hello.
So we have
Welcome to the new world. Charot.
Parang, yeah, we kind of look a bit formal today, but anyway. So that's the topic for this episode, but also I invited romance class author Brianna Ocampo to also provide her answers to the prepared questions that we have for the program. Brianna Ocampo is writing under a pen name and will not be appearing on the panel, but has sent her answers through email, and I will be reading her answers to the questions. So just to say that I am not Brianna Ocampo, and I will
Sure
Disclaimer,
ka ba dyan?
not me.
just a disclaimer that I am
made
not
clear.
Brianna, and I am reading Brianna's answers for each question. So welcome to everyone. And first off is I will ask each author to introduce themselves and mention at least one book that they've written that has high heat. Or and hello to the people pala in the chat. Hello, Paolo.
Who is
I
Miss
see him
Paolo? We
person.
don't know, Char.
We have no
Wait.
idea. We have no idea.
My question kagad. I'm just saying it's not me. But So
Yeah, sure. You keep saying that. It does not help, Regis.
this is and another thing that I'll mention is one of our panelists, Layla Tanjutco, is not just an author but is also an editor of books with high heat. So occasionally she might switch different hats when answering the questions as editor or as author. We would love her perspective as well with those different hats. So
Number one proponent of heat level.
let's start. So please introduce yourself and mention a book of yours or a story that you've written with high heat. Let's start with Bella.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the stream today. Actually, I mas author ako ng high heat romance class stories, but I've also written a short story under the Troptastic 2 anthology, The Key to You, and it's heat level 3. So yeah.
Thank you, Leila. Next up, Chi.
Hi. Hi, I'm Chi Rodriguez. I actually only have one book na heat level 3, which is No Two Ways. It's has a bisexual MC and a lesbian LI. Yung baby pa ako, isa pa lang yung book ko na. Level 3. Mabait ako eh, char.
Ganon.
Yun lang,
May
demure ako,
ganon?
demure. Oo, demure. Naka-black lipstick, demure.
Talaga. Sex
Ayun
sa
lang.
first page.
That's it. Shut up,
Demure.
mamaya na natin i-discuss yung kahihiyan ko na yan. Ano ba? Stop.
Lies, all lies.
Stop.
You're being called out.
Our friends in the comments are commenting on
Talaga, demure.
how
Ikaw,
people are introducing themselves.
Commenting on my life.
Thank you, Chi. How about you, Carla?
Hi, welcome to the podcast and stream. My name is Carla de Guzman, and uh, almost everything that I write is heat level 3. And I will say it's Layla's fault. So,
Layla
I think,
talaga.
yes, I take 50% responsibility.
yeah,
Because
good.
50% sa'yo.
As you should.
Thank you, Carla. So we'll have links to their books in the show notes if you are
Suggestions.
curious about what they're talking about once they start talking about their answers to the questions. And I I'm not going to be answering more. I will answer if I can, if there's time and if I can. But I'm Mina and I also write Heat Level 3. But I guess mostly lately I've been writing Heat Level 3. I didn't start out writing Heat Level 3. It was something I kind of evolved into
You grew
at some
into.
point. Yeah, I grew into it. But actually the idea of the idea of sort of growing into it, or that you can't shift heat levels back and forth. The most recent short story I actually wrote was Heat Level 0. So, sometimes the story just calls for whatever heat level it calls for, even if sanay ka na sa 3 or whatever else. So, yeah. Okay, so we have an invitation in the comments to share your favorite Heat Level 3 romance class books in the chat. Okay, so let's start with our questions. Our first question is, when did you start writing Heat Level 3 or on page text for others to read? So I phrased the question like this because usually maybe as writers we started writing this or experimenting with the writing of this knowing that no one else will read it or not letting anyone else read it.
Yeah.
But when was the point when you were okay with other people reading a sexy? Ano ba tong sa comments? Ano ba tong kaguluhan na to?
Live reading, ano ba?
Live reading.
Live reading. Ay.
Nasa-stress ako. Charot.
Feel so prom ulit.
Layla, how about you? how about let's start with you? Yes.
Start with me talaga na ako lang yung
Oo.
may... Hindi. Well, sige. As an author, yun nga, nito lang yung talagang pinublish ko na with on-page sex scene with my Tropetastic 2 story. But as for editing, medyo matagal-tagal na rin. Ano ba yung first? Hindi ko na maalala yung first na book, the romance class book na may heat level 3. But as Carla mentioned, mahilig ako mag-push gently ng authors to
Gently. Define
I'm sorry, it just came out.
gently.
with, with consent na magsulat ng heat level 3. Like if I see the story and I feel like it needs a push, yun, I encourage them strongly to go the extra mile. Ayan. Mm-mm. Yun.
So siguro as background, the first class that we did where on-page sex scenes were required was in 2014. Yung 2014 pala yun. So
True.
I looked up our
Si
history of
oh my God. Which
I looked up
one?
our history of writing sex scenes. So we did the class with Buko in
Oo.
2014, and then we
Oo.
required heat level 3, or we didn't call it heat level 3 then, or basta it
Oo,
was
basta.
on page sex scenes. So yeah, 2014, what's time?
Ano ba yun?
But
100
When
years
we were
ago.
Yung
how
kay Camila
old?
Cisco ba to? Tama ba?
um
Is that it?
same, that was
Yung
the
ba yung
same
batch na
year.
yun?
That was the same year, but
Yeah.
that was a later
Different.
batch kasi yun
Okay,
yung
different
sports
batch.
romance eh. So that was
Okay.
the second class na that we did where
Okay.
we required. So yeah, so the first ones from the community would have shown up as manuscripts for you to be edited in 2014, parang ganon.
Tama.
So
Nako.
yeah, that's what. But
2014.
When we
What
were
is
minors, kasi
time?
25
My
pa lang
God.
tayo ngayon.
Oo.
We
Para
were
sa
still
ano,
minors in 2014.
we were minor. And hindi ko pa kayo kilala din nun. Tara's right. I didn't
Yeah.
hindi pa nga ako kasama na romance class nun.
Cities tayo una nag-work together.
That was 2015, 16.
Oh my God. So long ago.
We're
it's a
so
journey. It has been a
yeah,
journey.
a journey.
But
Oh,
anyway, I phrased that question that way because yun nga, not everyone naman started writing with romance class. So
Mhm.
maybe you started writing or you published something or you just posted something somewhere where people would have read your
Somewhere.
sex scene. So anyway, Chi, how about you?
Bale, yun nga. So, nung 2008,
When I was a young
no,
child.
when I was a young child, no, yeah, I started writing, syempre yun nga, I didn't call it then heat level 3 back then. We call it PWP, you know,
Mm,
in
Lemon.
PWP, ano
in the
yun?
fanfic community or lemons and stuff like that. I started writing around that time to on page sex fanfic na around 2008, 2009. It was in live journal. I am revealing that I am not actually 25 as it is. But yeah, around that. How many years ago was that? 8, 10,
Not a lot.
almost 15 years ago
When you were a child.
when I was 10 years old. Sorry.
Chi,
But yeah.
what
Mm.
did that community know that you were Filipino?
Yeah, eventually, because I met Tara Frejas, another romance class author. In that
Laglag.
community. Yeah, no, in that fanfic community, I met a lot of my friends, in real life friends now from that community because we found out nga na we were all Filipino. Either it either came out in comments or conversations, like, or some people put
In
curse
the
words
story.
in their fic
Yeah.
Oh my God, Pinay ka pala, something like that. So yeah, we eventually found out. People knew that I was from the Philippines.
Correct,
Yung,
EJ.
yun
Still
na.
PWP.
Yeah, PWP, stuff like that. There is absolutely zero plot. No, just sex.
Mm-hmm.
What does PWP mean? Sorry.
A porn
Plot
without
what
plot.
plot?
Oh,
Two different
what
answers.
isn't
Plot
that
what?
like
No, it's both. It people use it both ways, like plot what plot or porn without plot, something like that.
oh, okay. But porn without plot is like isn't that
Ayun, so I
redundant?
started writing that in fanfic. And it was mostly uh what do you call it? Slash fic. So it's MLM, men love men
Mm.
stuff.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Chi. How about
Yay.
thank you for
Eto,
sharing that you have been a live journal user since
or
2000.
revealing
Paolo, thank you.
age reveal.
Gosh, babies using live journal. It's
Yeah, I know. 5 years
it's a
old.
real
We were already
problem.
on the
Pwede pala
internet.
yun. Oo.
Oh, the
Carla, how about
circumvention on
you?
you.
When did you start writing Heat Level 3?
I started my very first Heat Level 3 scene is the one from the 2017 edition of If the Dress Fits. I don't remember kung ano yung naging catalyst for me deciding that I could do this. But yun,
We
I
started
think
with you started it with a medyo mild thing, and then I said,
yeah,
"Kaya pa
more.
to." Kaya pa to.
Then
And then
Layla
let's
said
add
more.
another one. So,
And she basically created a monster. Woo!
aren't you proud? Like,
Yeah, I'm very proud
you
of
know,
ourselves
I
for
was
the two of
doing
us.
God's work. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, your life changing prodding led to all of this. Is what I'm saying.
So,
You're welcome.
if you're hearing this dynamic that we're having with our editor, because she edited most of our books with high heat,
Yeah.
it's the thing that we kind of figured out as we were doing this. Na even before we came up with the scale of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like I think as readers we need to be clear about how we're going to approach this scene in the book, because we parang setting expectations, I guess, kasi we're used to uh we read a lot of romance na pag high heat it's usually US romance, and then they have a way of doing high heat romance when it's US. And we were noticing that when it's Filipino romances, we the expectations bless you. Either the expectations are different, or parang maybe we're not pushing ourselves in that direction. We maybe maybe we were just used to these books because they existed. Yung the chick lit, for example, or romances that were published here that we were reading that had Filipino characters. They had a way of dealing with sex scenes that we were kind of uh it was the same. That was, but now we call them like heat level 1 or heat level 2. Yung there was a very fade to black
Mhm.
cine, cin, parang rom-com cinematic way of dealing with the scene, and not exactly the way that books uh, were were depicting the scene. So we were, yeah. So we kind of, yeah, we had an editor saying, maybe you could open the door further, or you could have another scene, or you could do more.
More
Even
more
your,
pa.
even your first
Just
one,
make
Mina,
the
diba?
room
Was
glass, you know.
was
Yeah.
was fade to black, diba, Mina? Your first,
Alin?
your first, what was it? Fade to black yun eh.
Yung
Was
first ever
it?
book ko, yung My Imaginary Ex ba?
Mm-mm. Oo,
Yeah.
diba?
Mm,
Fade to
mm.
black siya.
Oo. So that had a sex scene like in the story, but yes, parang it's just the chapter ends, and then the next chapter was morning after they did it na, tapos na.
Yeah.
Ganon. So yun.
Very true.
So we had most of the chicklet published at the time, it was 2009, and the years before that, that was just the way it was done because it was similar to like the Star Cinema movie or the
Mhm.
or or actually most rom-coms naman that we saw. So, yun lang yung basis niya. But it wasn't exactly a match with the book. So, we were starting to learn how to write that more in books. So, I'll have Brianna's answer. So,
Okay, Brianna voice, Brianna voice.
so this is Brianna's answer to the first question. Truth or Dare is my first foray into writing smut. I read erotica and porn occasionally, but this was my first attempt at writing it. I originally wrote it on Wattpad, and I described that draft as a little experiment to prove that we can have sexy, smutty romance with Filipino characters. And that's her answer. So I actually did see the version of Truth or Dare on Wattpad because Brianna was sharing it. Uh, she shared that she had written it, and it was a lot of it is retained in the published version. So I it was actually on the basis of seeing it on Wattpad that I was like, you should publish this. You should sell this to people.
Good call.
Karon instigator ka rin. Eh.
Oo, ganun talaga. Parang, hey, make some money off this thing that you that
That
you
you
wrote.
wrote.
Okay, next question. Describe your process for writing a scene. What do you consider important for you to write? What do you consider important for the characters to do in a scene? So, I will start with an author and then end with Layla. Para, kasi,
Oh no, reverse card.
yes. So, how about, let's start with Carla.
Ay
My
naman.
God, oh my God, akala ko ako. I was so
Alphabetical na.
okay.
Okay, so like, do you have a process? So, yun,
I'm interested.
like for writing a scene, and what do you consider important to be part of the scene, and what do you consider important for characters to do in the scene?
Okay, so
buffering.
so yung origin, like si Chi, my origins in reading sex scenes was really in fanfic. So parang in fanfic, uh character development is a huge thing na parang the fics I like the most are when the sex scene is integral to the plot, na it really forwards the relationship of the two characters. Kasi I think I remember around that time, um, I was just a baby romance reader, and I was reading these sex scenes. So parang, whoa, what is happening? I don't even know what these angles are. Parang it was parang for me it was too rough. Kuno. So from then on, parang I decided na I wanted my sex scenes to be a little softer. Na parang it's part of yung character development, yung development of the relationship, na it's a step that the couple takes together. So when I plan to write a sex scene, parang I always try to think why they will have sex at this point. Pwede naman for fun lang, pero parang I want, yung pinaka goal ko is to keep the characters as themselves when they're having sex. Kasi parang it's kind of a different experience to imagine someone else having sex versus picturing it for yourself. So, yun, parang when I plan it out, it's really part of the plot. Na at this point, they will do it because this is what I want to establish or something like that. Um, in terms of the things that characters have to do, mahirap yung in fairness, mahirap yung choreography of of
Of
a scene.
blocking.
Ilang beses na ako sinabihan ni Layla, wait lang, tatlo na yung kamay niya, or like, where did that leg come from? Wait. Ito yung ginagawa niya yan, pero hindi pa niya ginawa yung other thing. Tapos, minsan may logistics na ako personally, hindi ko alam. Parang, I think I remember asking Layla, if 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 you if you pull out already, are you supposed to change your condom? Tapos parang siya, ah! Parang may may mga things na practical, logistical things na hindi ko alam. So I think yun yung pinaka logistical considerations ko. Pero yeah, in general, parang I like a sex scene where it's still very much the two characters, which I think was the bigger difference for me when I started reading romance. I was really drawn to yung mga sex scenes na gano'n na parang it was very authentic to the two characters. So I try to do that pa rin with my writing. Yeah.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, so I think that's why we have editors and
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
comment on that part.
So they see the third leg.
And the,
The third
and the,
leg, the
and the
fourth
arm,
hand.
The
disembodied
extra,
arm.
the disembodied arms. Yeah.
Pero you said choreography, and that's the term that we use sa romance class. We've used it probably in a class,
Yeah.
and then we keep referring to it like on Twitter, like a joke. But it's true, diba? It's like
true.
describing a dance. It's like describing a dance with steps.
Calisthenics, guys.
Oo.
Yeah.
Saka iniisip ko blocking eh. Kasi diba,
Oo.
video.
Oo.
So parang,
Agree.
the movie in my mind.
Oo, tapos si Layla, so si Layla yung background niya is in video and script writing. So somebody with her POV thinks of this as filmed and and oo nga, parang tayo who write it. So imagine trying to write a dance with steps and just making
With
sure that
chords.
people know ayun, or a fight scene.
Fight
as
scene! Sometimes it's a fight scene.
Oo. And then may 'di ba may momentum aspect pa siya, gano'n. So
Mm.
parang ano, ang technical pero but
True.
yes. So
Not
same
easy.
question for you, Chi. Describe your process for writing.
Respect
What
that
do you
page
consider
one.
important for you to write? And what do you consider important for the characters to do? And if you could share your perspective kasi pronouns and stuff like that.
Yeah, and wait now.
Hirap.
When I was still writing fanfic, well, I actually process just vibes, No process, just vibes. Biglang,
That's valid.
yeah,
Oh,
because it was in a K-pop fandom, right? So you have ships and stuff like that. So when you see your ship and they trigger something, just gotta write it down. So
Yep.
there's no process. You just get, it's no process, just
Yeah.
vibe. But when nito na nung with books and stories, because even though No Two Ways is, like I said, the only book I have out that's level 3, there are things floating in my hard drive, my computer. It has not seen the world. So like for stuff like
Reveal
that,
na yun.
actually I read other sex scenes that I like before I start writing my own. Like I go back to other romance class books that I know have very sexy or high heat level scenes, and then I read them. I read them, and then it's not that I end up copying what is done. It's just, I guess it's also vibes. It gives me the atmosphere of like where I need to be, because I know romance class high heat scenes. We don't all write the same, but we have a standard with these things. So I also just want to make sure na okay, this is the thing. Okay, I'm gonna try to match this energy. We'll see, and then I just get the inspiration when I read my favorite authors' work. So I do that, and then I just put on my playlist, and then I start writing.
Yes, playlist is essential. Agree.
Yeah, playlist is essential because it
Ano
doesn't.
yan? Anong nakalagay
not
sa playlist?
even- no, like it's not even lyrics. I don't always like base it on lyrics. Sometimes it's more
Vibe.
the sound. Yeah,
Mm.
how the song sounds. That's what I add to my playlist. Like if it's chaotic, sex scene, syempre iba. If it's what, like Carla mentioned, like a softer sex scene, syempre iba din yung vibe nung
Yeah.
ganta dapat, something like that.
Nice, nice.
And ayun, so, what do I consider important for my characters to do?
Have fun! Charot.
Normally kasi I would say, I mean, I believe this kasi, like, in anything I read na, it has to make sense. You know,
Mm.
when I mean, syempre iba if PWP, but like, if it's in a novella, in a novel, it has to make sense. The sex scene can't just be there for a sex scene to be there. You know, it has to make sense, like what's been happening in the story, how the couple developed and stuff like that, or their dynamic. It has to make sense. But thinking, say after saying that, knowing I put a sex scene in the first chapter of my book, saan ko binase yun, di ba? Saan ko binase yun if I'm
Vibes.
saying na dapat it should make sense. So basically, I based it on vibes also. Like what I wanted, what I imagined their dynamic needed to be in the beginning, and then how I wanted uh the development of the two of them in the end to happen. Parang yun lang. That's where I got lang. It had to make sense. Na this is how I want to introduce their dynamic, and it made sense for the book and the story. So that's why I did that. In terms naman of what Mina mentioned about pronouns, it's difficult nga to write because like Carla said, the whole extra arm, the whole extra arm thing. The problem with writing a sex scene between like two women or two men, the she's and the he's and the it's just it's difficult to balance. Make sure that it's not confusing for the reader. And sometimes I get confused also. Who is this she? Who is this she that I'm writing? Where was she positioned earlier? Is this the right is this the right position? Is her hand moving correctly, or is it stuck under the other her's leg? It's difficult. And which is why normally my first idea would be to write first person, 'cause it's a little bit easier than third person. But yeah, there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot to figure out, but I just hope for the best. Like I thought, no, seriously, because I thought it was the sex scene in No Two Ways was fine. I thought it was nice. Layla said it was great.
It was.
Um, Bridge said it was great. Carla also said it was great. But then I
Mhm.
got a review saying it was bad. So like, you can't please everyone.
Well, you can't please
So like,
everyone.
Yeah,
yeah, you
lesson
can't please
learned.
everybody.
I mean,
So just like
that happens.
as far as
Sinagsabi
what's
nun, awayan
important for
natin.
the characters to
Oo.
do, I just try
And why
to
are you
make
on
them do the
Goodreads?
things that I think that I would like I imagine would feel great, and what would make sense for the two characters lang talaga. It has to, yun nga, it has to make sense. That's it. But I had to make peace with the whole it can't please everybody.
I feel yung hope for the best. kasi, kasi it's true, parang you want to think that you planned it. You want to think that you got things right and you did the work and you parang wrote your best and then you don't know if and yun. But also parang oh nga no, parang it's like you want things to make sense. You want things to not be yung haphazard. Pero there's yun nga, like a spontaneity and vibe to it that you also don't wanna lose, 'di ba?
Vibes.
Parang and then kailangan tapos siyempre 'pag na-over-edit ka naman or
Mm-mm.
masyadong 'di ba, parang if you overthink it, if you over-edit it, something is
Mm,
also lost. So
Extra challenge pa kasi yung kay Chi because she of course wants to have good bisexual rep, 'di ba? So parang she took that on. So, parang,
Tapos hindi ko na ginawa ulit. Yun ang
Ay,
nangyari.
grabe. Not yet. Wow.
Ganun,
so,
ganun ang
meron pa
nangyari.
yan.
Pwede pa. Oh.
Pwede
But
pa
Ganun
yan.
yeah. So it's
Pinibili
I think
mo na sa hard drive mo.
parang I think based on what parang how we're reacting is that you can plan as much as you can and then, but eventually
And
when
then you
you do
get
your
scared.
thing and then you release it
Yeah.
out there parang yeah, hope for the best. So I'd like to read Brianna's answer. So this is long, pero I kind of like the detail that she gave kasi shinare niya talaga yung process niya. So
Oh, wow.
I'm going to
Yay!
read I'm going to read
Woohoo!
Brianna's answer. So
Ahead,
this is
ahead.
Brianna's answer to the question, describe your process for writing a scene. What do you consider important for you to write? What do you consider important for the characters to do? So Brianna's answer starts here. I like to create the mood of the scene and the characters, so I tend to focus on how they say things, what they see, and what their bodies are doing and feeling, especially in relation to each other. It's important for me to describe all the nonverbal communication happening between my characters. This is especially important in the lead up to the sex scenes. I love the tension that happens when the characters aren't sure what they want and the reader isn't sure what they're saying. And even I, as an author, don't fully understand where my characters are heading. I think that's where the art of writing happens. I force my characters to have something on the line when they have sex. That element of emotional risk is my preferred way of building and maintaining tension. It means I have to pace the sex scenes in parallel to the emotional arc of the characters. I try to be as authentic as possible. I usually have an idea of what sexual acts I want in a scene, and I have to choreograph my characters so they make sense. So, for example, I think about how we get from the door to the dining table to the bedroom. When does each character take off their clothes? How much time do they need? It's hot in the Philippines, so the characters will get very sweaty unless someone turns on the aircon, but maybe it's too expensive to have it on all night. And I try to infuse humor into the scene because sex reveals awkward things about yourself. Good sex is fun sex. I like to keep my characters anchored within their reality. I tend to write dreamy sex on the first pass, and I have to make it more realistic by incorporating life, the mundane, into the scene. Uh, what can the heroine see on the wall when she's receiving oral? What do her bed sheets look like? How does she deal with morning breath? Finally, I tie all the elements together by trying to make sure that every detail says something about the characters. There's a note on this part that I can delete it, but I'm going to read it anyway. Um, Brianna continues. One of my early editing comments said that you didn't get the sense that Cassie and Tino were good friends. The reader were just told that they were. The scene where Cassie uses Tino's bathroom was originally there to show that she wasn't too drunk to consent. So I also wrote her rearranging Tino's bathroom cabinet to show how comfortable she is in his space. In one of the later editing rounds, I added a scene where Tino does the same in her bathroom. That scene was originally designed to help with pacing and provide an insight into Tino's feelings, but I had him rearrange her makeup products as a kind of symmetry. I consider my work to be political. In Truth or Dare, I wanted to show that you can be a practicing Catholic and still enjoy guilt free sex without marriage, that the characters probably earn a decent salary, and the heroine comes from a family that has heirloom furniture. That short hair with curls is beautiful, that men can feel jealous without being toxic. That love doesn't have to be grand gestures, it can be about washing dishes and making breakfast and turning on the aircon without being asked. And that was her answer.
Ano ba yan?
Miss ko bigla
Sige,
sila
baka-
Christian.
I think I'll just turn off my ano na lang. Bye, guys.
Oo, uwi na lang ako. Hindi na ako
Uwi na lang
magsusulat ulit
tayo.
ng sex scene ever. Wag na
Oo.
lang.
So kaya ako binasa yung buo.
Hit level
Cute, no?
0 na lang ako starting today.
Yeah, oo. Balik tayo dun.
So Paolo says good answer, parang speech. I like
Standing ovation.
see I like yeah, I mean all of that. So it's like yeah, so it's that again. It's like you thought about it but also parang like somebody in your beta reading round or editing round will say maybe it should have something like this. Maybe it should. But the solution that you come up with can also mean something, 'di ba? Yung as Carla said, parang it should mean something that's consistent with the character, or that it adds something,
Ah,
even when yung comment is parang kulang lang ganito, tapos yung
mm.
idadagdag mo adds to character development.
Ang ano ko pala, isa pa palang okay lang ba? Sorry.
Aircon and
May isa
electric fan
may
important. I'm gonna have Layla answer next, but you can yes, Chi, your thoughts.
may isa pa kasi ako naisip. I struggle with this a lot. I don't think I have it down. But like, nga, at some point, you have to let it go. Your editor says, okay na yan. Okay na. Pero like, I try to think then like how to balance yung emotional factor and the technical factor.
Yeah.
Because like, we have a few books that are not high heat level, but have scenes that are described in a way na, it's hot, but it's feelings, It's
Yeah.
I
And usually it's
I
YA.
aspire to that, like I aspire to get to that na may balance nun and yung technical na like I'm telling you this is what's happening. The arm is going here, the hand is going there, the leg is but then also feelings. Kasi yun nga I want balang araw siguro like I can feel satisfied na I have that balance, but like I bring up also
Mahirap
Bridge,
nga siya, no?
the way Bridge wrote the scenes in Yumi US.
Yung US.
It wasn't explicit, diba? But like feelings. I want that. Feelings, tension. Ang dinedescribe niya is like emotions and thoughts and feelings, but like mainit, Like I want that. I want that.
I have that impression, and I have that impression nga sa books ni Bridge, because if you actually parang go and think about the heat level, kasi diba we did our heat level, so it's not about making judgments on how hot the feelings are. It's really just the physical aspect of it. So may mga libro si Bridge na actually hindi masyadong mataas yung heat level. Hello Bridge in the
Hi,
chat.
Bridge! Ano ba? Did I summon you? Did I summon you? What happened?
So it's like you speaking of anyway. Yeah, but you actually upon reading have the impression that it's high heat because of how they were thinking and how they were feeling. So yun, she explains it. Hack ko yan. Like, hack ko yun because I'm the reverse. I cannot with the mechanics. And actually valid yun. So yung comment ni Brianna about yung what people are seeing and doing, not every writer will go for that actually. Na parang that actually can take somebody out. Yung if the reader is not into that or the author is not into that, it takes them out of the emotions of the scene then. So wala. Hope for the best.
Hope for the best na lang. Hope for the best na lang nga kasi talaga.
See, ano,
writing workshop. Yes, Carla.
Ano ba?
I was chatting with Denise the other day. Parang I was complaining na, yung story niya sinusunod ka has no conflict. It has no conflict really. Pero she pointed out na it's really all about the tension. Parang I keep thinking about yung favorite sex scenes ko written, and physically na-feel ko yung tension na yun in my chest when I read it.
Yung dibdib mo.
Oo. When you
Ganun
read
yung
it, parang you don't know if you should put it down, if you should keep reading.
Tapos mamimilipit ka pa ganun. Yun.
Oo. Literally, pati yung toes mo gumaganon. That's when you know it's good. And it's not always a sex scene. When you feel that, parang sometimes it's just characters being together. So, yeah, the mechanics of the sex is important, and like it adds a difficulty level to the writing kasi nga you have to think about those things. Pero yeah, I think si Brianna really laid down how you build it up together and how tension is important. So you get the vibes, parang the right balance of vibes and mechanics. I think yun yung work that yun yung parang winning formula to a really good steamy scene.
It was dirty, but it was kilig at the same time.
Yeah!
That was amazing. It was amazing to me.
You're talking about which book are you talking about?
Truth or Dare, Brianna.
Okay.
It's like, what are
Dirty
you
but
doing?
killing.
So
Oh
dirty,
my
but
God!
so kilig.
Oo.
No, and very clear kung sino yung,
I'm so
who is
stressed.
yung couple. Parang, yes, tatlo
Naalala ko,
sila,
I'm
but
so
it's really the two of them. Parang ganun. That's why
Naalala,
everybody needs a Christian in
what
their
did you do?
life. A
Um,
sexual guardian
so,
angel.
Layla, after all of that, do you have like uh, something to add
Siguro I
about
can,
the process, either as author or as editor?
siguro as editor, explain ko rin what I look
Nagtago.
for, what I look for, what I try
Taking down notes.
to help them achieve, help you guys achieve. Um, First yun nga is the blocking, choreography. Is it um, physically possible? Ayun, I always try to look at that. So there's a movie in my mind that that says, oh, okay, does this work? Pwede ba to? Pwede ba yung gano'n? Nasaan siya? Anong ginagawa? Um, but also, yung sinabi ni Brianna, na yung feelings kasi, important din. Kasi, um, I noticed that some authors have a tendency to get stuck on, yun nga, yung action, di ba? When um, you also have to try and focus on the emotions. Like, so I will have questions like, what this, how did this action make this person feel? Um, so first time nila nag-kiss, anong feeling niya? First time siyang hinawakan, anong naramdaman niya, yung gano'n. So, yun yung tinatry kong mapalabas din when it's lacking. That sort of element na may emotional um, aspect yung sex scene. 'Cause- And of course, I also need to to see kung if it's hot. Yun. If it's kasi it has to be hot, 'di ba? Para for it to work. So ayun. Ano pa ba? Yun. And then if I feel like it needs more, because
Mhm.
there's sometimes if an author is
Sometimes,
Most of
some
the time,
me.
slash all
well,
of the time.
most of the
Excuse
time
me.
authors like okay, they do this and they do this very quickly, they write it, okay, just to get it over with, di ba? And then halata. So
Sorry
I will
naman. Ganun.
so I will tell them na, not naming names, but I will tell them to maybe let's have them do this pa. Let's expound on this pa.
But
Let's
Layla, I'm
describe
tired
this
na.
this certain this certain moment. 'Di ba? But no, it works, 'di ba? Like with Max and
Mm.
Martha. 'Di ba? When we added that second scene with that
True.
thing,
I agree.
I loved it so much. Because I told you that, and then I said, oh, sige, tingnan natin what will happen. And then you surprised me, and I was pleasantly surprised. So,
Carla was like,
ayan.
gulat
So
ka, no?
proud of
Joke
you.
lang.
Yeah.
Tinan mo, kaya ko
Oo.
eh.
Gulat ka, no?
Oo,
No,
ayan.
because
And
I
then,
think kasi you gave me permission to do it. Alam mo yun? Parang you said, yeah, you
ayun
should
nga,
go for it.
parang feeling ko kasi some authors just are waiting for
The nudge.
them to be pushed. Parang, pag na-feel ko yun, okay. Pero
I don't want, okay. I don't
meron
want
naman
to
na hindi.
generalize. Oo nga, I don't want to generalize, but maybe that's our thing. Since yung topic natin is writing
Oo.
level 3 as Filipinos, it's almost like we need somebody to say, actually, kulang
Okay, that's
pa.
okay. Oo, and that's
Oo,
okay.
and it's
Basta parang,
okay. Oo.
don't be shy. Todo mo na yan,
Oo.
te.
Oo.
On a girl.
Todo mo na, girl. Nandito na
Parang,
tayo. Parang, no, but
oo.
that's exactly what you did to me. With the
Ginawa.
Nag-date
Sabihin ko nga,
ka.
si Mina nga
Ayun.
ginawa, binalik niya sa'yo lahat
Oo,
ng
binalik
ginagawa
niya
mo
sa
sa
akin.
akin.
Oo. So,
Oo.
so to put on a different hat
Karma.
lang. Oo, so switch tayo ng hat kasi si Layla was talking about her publishing her first Heat Level 3 story as an author this year. And I was one of the people who read the draft and I said, this could be a higher heat level.
Fade to black ako. I tried mag-fade to black.
It was
I
your
said-
turn.
Hindi umubra.
So I said, I
Ano
don't
natin?
know, 'di ba? I don't know if that's similar. Parang so far similar yung journey natin na parang as authors maybe we stop at a certain point and then we
Oo.
wait for somebody to say, actually pwede ba?
Oo, go mo na
Pwede.
yan. Parang gano'n. Nandyan na tayo. So, tuloy mo na.
Bakit
But meron,
kaya?
meron din namang authors na sasabihin sa akin, hindi ko pa kaya.
Okay.
Like, sabihin ko, pwede po pang gawin to. Tapos sabi, no, Ninang, hindi ko kaya. Okay, sige.
But there
Tapos
were
later
the ones,
on, mag-hit level 3 bigla.
pero there are
Wala
a
niyo
few,
sino yun. Charot.
there are a few na parang
Dalawang baso.
right off right at the beginning, parang, oh, okay, okay, this is how it's gonna be, parang ganun. So,
This is your brand now.
Parang may nagtatago doon na. Oo. Pagkabasa, sabi niya sa akin, pakibasa nga to, pakitingin kung ano yung M. Okay. Tapos,
and just
Sabi sa akin,
to
ni
give
Ronald,
examples,
dumi-dumi
to give examples, like,
good job.
based dun sa published yung published na nasa website natin, yun na, like, Submission Moves ni Camila Cisco or Truth or Dare nga, ni Brianna Ocampo, which is like, to date, their only book. And then they...
And then yun talaga yung boom.
The other story ni Ben
And,
Hernandez.
Oh
Oh my!
and H. Bentham's The Other
H.
Story.
Bentham.
Start here.
Yun,
Yun. So,
yung
parang,
tension nun.
Yun yung mga, yung
Then,
sinabi
kung
namin ni
nandito
Carla
kami
kanina
dalawang
na
baso.
namimilipit. Yun
Yun,
sa'yo sa mga ganun.
Doon
Oo.
mo na-feel.
Naku, yung lemon. Oo.
Lemon.
Ayan ay.
Just,
Gusto ko lang din i-bring up gaano ka-responsible si Layla as an editor. Kasi may mga experiences na tipong, sorry, bibring up ko, pero ano naman, discreet. Char. May times kasi nag-message sa akin si Layla because it was another WLW scene. So she asked me, posible ba 'to? I had to give her visual aids. Na yes, that is possible. That is, yes, it's legit.
I enjoyed that. That was for research.
It was
Thank you.
two women.
It was for
And it was
science.
like, parang confused talaga siya. Sabi niya talaga, is this possible? Kasi parang hindi niya talaga ma-fathom. I'm like, yes. Yes, that's
and then, ano
May
yan,
proof siya, may proof.
may proof ako. Nagbigay ako ng proof.
For science. Thank you.
Sige, share ko lang kasi there was something that I read, not romance class, pero book ni Mandy Lee. So erotic fiction writer siya na Tagalog and then published locally. Pero she posts them on Wattpad first and then publish it. Tapos very high heat. And then actually I would say nga that she pushes it further. I haven't really read. She pushes it further in an interesting direction to me kasi I've tried reading others na parang hindi they don't really think about, or at least in the text I don't know the authors kasi, so I don't know what they think about, pero like in one Mandy Lee book, Filipino yung characters in the Philippines, tapos may mention ng parang Plan B, so it's not Plan B pero parang Plan B na and then, nag-comment ako on Instagram na, this is really interesting, pero parang, wala na, pero I don't know if this is possible here, may ganun pa ako. And then, nag-message siya na actually, and then I ended up learning na it is possible with the right consultations with the proper doctors na you can get the
Plan B.
equivalent of, Plan B here. So, parang, thank you for Thank
Because
you
we
for
learn
Education.
something new every day.
Thank you
It's
for that
true.
discussion, diba,
Today
with me.
I learned.
And yun nga, parang ano thing, I had a question about her work and then she didn't mind asking. She was ready. She was ready with the answer na
She did
uh
her work homework,
oh, and it was such
Mm.
an
unlike
interesting
some people.
Ah!
so
What?
it was
What?
Are we there? Are we there?
What?
it's just wala la. It's such an interest parang yun, if you're going to have your work out there yung comments, excuse me. If you're going to have your work out there and then it's gonna end up ask having people ask those questions and then the author actually having an answer. Haka, ang galing lang. Natuwa lang ako dun sa response na yun. So, next question, because I think it's a segue. Um, how do you feel about being an author who is Filipino and writing Heat Level 3 or 4? Since writing and releasing your work, did you learn anything new about Filipinos' views about and literature, sex in literature and media? Did your own opinions and thoughts change? How about let's start with Chi?
Hmm. Ah, right now kasi parang, I mean, we're at, I think most of us are at that point eh. I mean, but we weren't here before. Like, but right now it's like, gusto mag-level 3 eh, so what? Like, I mean, there's still the fear na, like, a relative will read it or something. But aside from that, well, it's not a big deal to me anymore as far as how I feel about being an author who is Filipino and writing Heat Level 3. But before I met anyone from romance class, before romance class, basically, parang, since nga, like I mentioned before, I started writing high heat level stuff in fanfic. I used to pseudonym din, you know, and no one actually knew me. Like right now, I have my author name, but everyone knows me. See my face, you see my face on Twitter. I post stuff. Pero nung back then, it felt safe because no one actually knew who I was when I was posting those stuff. Ganon yung like yung um atmosphere noon when I was younger, and I had this idea na yung very public, like na written word. Does anyone know Serex in the audience? Char. But like yung mga ganong type, like in the radio dramas, akala ko at that time then medyo scandalized din ako dun sa stuff like that before. And I don't know exactly when the transition was when I went from, oh my god, people do this, to, yeah, people do this, it's fine. Pero at some point, you get to that at some point. Eh. I don't know if it's age since I'm 25, but I don't. Since I'm
Mature ka na.
25, since mature na
We're
ako,
all
yun for
25.
mature roles, okay na ako. But yeah, as I grew up, it developed din. As a Filipino na, lalo na I was born Catholic, and then eventually I um switched to being a born again Christian, and now I'm a non-practicing spiritual person. But religion is a big part of how I viewed sex in media,
That's for everyone.
growing up, being Asian, all those stuff. But yeah, at some point you get, when you meet the right people, you realize it's not a big deal, and people are being dramatic. So I'm there now. I don't remember much of what it was before, but right now, yeah, it definitely changed over the years, in my 25 years of life. So ayun lang. I'm fine na now. It's just yeah. mm, mm, Write it. It's fun.
How about you, Layla? Since
Ako, ako sa akin kasi, I feel like it's a responsibility. Ang dami kasing nag-exist na toxic or problematic when it comes to sex scenes or just sex, no, in media. So for me, it's I look at it as a responsibility to one, educate, and also to tell people na it's okay to have a positive sexual experience. And to expect that of from your partner. So parang gusto ko may real life takeaway sila from the stories. So yun yung for me biggest um biggest objective ko when it comes to helping authors um come up with their sex scenes um with for their Filipino characters. Kasi there's too much na problematic content out there, and I feel like we're doing uh, good work with our community,
Thank
especially for
you,
young people.
Layla.
Ah,
Thank you.
may ano pala, yung something I learned pala related sa sinabi ni Layla. Yung, na I think tama si Layla na parang we're doing good work. Kasi like, yung natutunan ko na the idea na if a relationship starts at sex, it's not gonna either it's not gonna end well, or it's not for long term, or it's not a real relationship. Parang ganun. Because the reactions of doon lang ako nag-pay attention sa reactions ng like not just Filipino people, I guess, like in general, maybe Asians. Na parang that idea, parang it's nice to like subvert that. Parang oo, na even it doesn't mean if it doesn't mean the foundation is weak. Kasi parang ganun eh. Parang ganun yung
That's
nakuha ko eh. Na the foundation is weak if it starts in sexy times.
Yun ba yung feedback? Yun ba yung feedback?
Parang, I don't know about that, guys.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Masaya, we are doing good work. Tama si
Did you
Layla.
read anything other than
Oo. Yeah. Guys,
May buong kwento naman
You
na
went
after.
through it.
Oo.
Went through the whole thing. Like, they
Hindi
cried
naman
a
siya
lot.
pinost as stand-alone sa Wattpad, yung chapter 1, di ba? Kaya yung kasunod, joke lang. Pero ayun.
Hindi naman happy ever after agad after.
Oo. Ayun lang.
But yeah, that's the number one for me. Like, I always try. Because since I have children, parang responsibility ko. And ang dami ko kasi talagang nakikita na hindi maayos. Ayun.
So we have questions in the comments that we'll get to after this. But first, Carla, how do you feel about being an author who is Filipino and writing Heat Level 3? Since releasing your work, did you learn anything new about Filipinos' views? And did your own opinions and thoughts change? So, siguro, I'd like to before handing it off to you, siguro I'd like to remind the audience that Carla actually has books that are published by a US publisher and distributed internationally. So I think, and those books are high heat. So it's in Carla's case, there is probably an international audience, or at least a overseas Filipino audience that's going to find out for the first time that, through Carla's books, that there's high heat romance featuring Filipinos. So yun. And then answer Carla.
No pressure. I don't feel any pressure right now.
Casually lang
Casually,
na pressure on your
Biglang bato natin
Just
kay
throw it
Carla.
into throw in a thing I didn't even think about. No, okay. okay, I will preface my thing by saying that ako talagang Catholic schoolgirl upbringing, um practicing Catholic pa rin ako and all of that. And one of the first things I did when I decided to write high heat books is sinabi ko sa family ko, okay, I'm doing this. Um, you can read if you want, but don't talk to me about it. Like, parang immediately establishing na um, dito siya sa other side of my life, and this is my safe space. Like, you can come in, you can read, and I will not be upset or anything, but let's not talk about it anymore. Parang um you don't have to come to me with your thoughts on what I on sex, on how I write sex. Like,
Wala
please
kayong
don't.
pake, gano'n.
Oo, like wala kayong pake kasi ako wala na akong pake, honestly. Like what she said, parang I am so chill about it. Um Ironically, parang as a person who hasn't actually been in a sexual relationship or anything before, parang it's funny how much I enjoy this. Um
It's funny
uh
how well you do this.
so I think I mentioned when I started reading romance books, I think I was reading the wrong ones kasi it was too intense for me. Parang it was about how wild it can get. Na medyo erotica yung dating. And parang I didn't feel like I wasn't very into it. And then I started reading romance class books where I feel like iba yung the way we write sex scenes. It's very character driven, very even if cheese scene opens with a sex scene, it's very ano pa rin eh, parang it's very soft and romantic pa rin. Compared to the older stuff I was reading before, and compared to the fanfic I was reading before, parang in my old age of 20, I parang dun ko palang na-absorb talaga na wow, the things I was reading before I started reading romance or romance class was not good, like not safe, not consensual, not healthy as a relationship. So parang um I don't think about too much about it anymore, except more or less may caveat usually yung leads ko na, oh, cause I grew up Catholic and I have this thing na parang medyo weird pa rin for me yung sex. But I do it anyway because I want to. Parang, and parang in a sense, it's like a tiny, tiny form of rebellion na, yeah, I know what the rules are. I know what I'm not supposed to do, but I want to do it anyway. And it makes me feel good. It makes me have a better relationship with this other person. So, yun. And as for yung mga OFWs, people abroad who study suddenly, I have seen people comment na um, that my work, I have seen, I would say, Americans or people outside the Philippines comment na, oh, the heat is sweet. Like, it's ano lang, it's a sweet book. Pero for me, it was really like, this is the most number of sex scenes I've ever written in a book, and it's quite intense. But for them, it's like, it's mild. Parang ganon. So I think, so there is a difference. I think like, it became more pronounced when I published with Karina, the difference between how we write and how someone from somewhere else would write a sex scene in particular. Um, I have also seen comments from Filipinos who say na iba pa yung comments, I've never read a book with Filipino characters, which is one. And I've never read a book with Filipino characters who have sex without hang-ups. I mean, I don't know their journey, but this is mine. And parang, also what, as Leila said, parang, I personally like the idea that sex is part of a healthy relationship. It is like, no matter, parang in a lot of relationships, it's part of a healthy relationship, and it's important, and you're writing a story about a relationship, so why shouldn't it be part of that? So yeah, in summary, I'm so chill about it. pero it's only because I was able to establish a safe space very early on. Yun.
Thank you, Carla. I think you ended up summarizing the project, or at least what we're trying to do, which is we can write this into a romance book, and hindi required yung may hang up. Hindi
Mm,
required. Hindi siya required.
yeah.
It does not make your book more accurate or authentic to the
Can
experience to
can
add
I
a
say
hang up.
Napaganon nga ako eh. Di ba?
can
Oo,
I say
medyo
Hindi mo
something?
naman
Oo, yung,
expected. Hang
I
up.
I wanna say something about yun, yung related to that. And 'di ba they keep people keep saying how romance books are not realistic. But but these things happen all the time. Like people who are in healthy relationships have sex and they have good sex all the time. So we're just being realistic.
yeah.
Diba? Aren't
Parang
we?
don't people deserve good sex, happy
'Di ba?
endings?
Parang bakit kailangan laging may hang
Pwede
up?
bang
Bakit
whole face
kailangan
lang, wala
walang
namang hang
concept,
ups.
gano'n?
Gusto lang niya mag-whole face. Pwede naman yun.
Oo, but
Oo, oo.
Diba?
nothing
Bakit
wrong,
may
no
hang
shame.
up?
Ano, bakit
Bakit
Okay
kailangan
kailangan
naman
may
face healthy, you
romance?
bakit
know?
bakit
Oo.
kailangan i-shame, 'di ba?
Minsan gusto niya
Nagulat,
lang.
oo, nagulat din ako dun. So, pero oo nga. I mean, nagulat ako that that would have been a comment, but it also explained a lot
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
of a lot
Kasi yun na nga, 'cause
of the
it's
parang
what
the feeling behind the reactions to what we're
mm,
writing, and also why we need to
do this more.
establish yung why it's difficult to establish yourself in the first place, kasi
Uh,
nga parang it seems like there is an expectation that this is a thing that won't be in a romance book, or either it won't be there,
It's a bad
or
thing that it's
or
there.
it's a bad thing, or people don't do it well, or
Mm. Iba pa yun, yeah, agree.
oo, or parang it's like a secret thing. I mean, yun nga, parang okay, get suddenly. Thank you, Carl, for
oo,
parang a
that's why, 'di ba?
breakthrough.
Parang yun nga, yun kasing content na
Mhm.
that's a dominant thing that we have that people are exposed to eh.
Mm.
Yung problematic, yung may hang up.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
because I'm
Kaya
seeing
pala,
something in the comments from Comic Ninja, it's not on you friends, it's on creators who don't want people happy. So actually, so this is the thing. I wanted to add pala to that. There is like, it's actually what we're trying to do also, which is depict like some sort of healthy, functional relationship.
Apparently, it's
Sort of.
controversial.
So it's not the reason why we always parang that the reason why we always bring up that this can coexist with other heat levels, and also other parang, and also other types of books, is this is just a thing that we're doing, and it doesn't mean that other people are not doing something totally different. But ang difficulty kasi, for example, like in just getting books, for example, in Filipino libraries or in schools, or discussed in
In
classrooms,
bookstores even.
uh, in bookstores, is when people have such a wrong impression of an entire genre, which is actually the best-selling genre, has the most number of views and reads, has the most number of writers, I'm guessing, contributing to it. Um, it's because people think that it's all one thing, and whatever that one thing is, they've decided it's harmful, it's not, uh, people, we shouldn't be studying it, we shouldn't be reading it if they
I can
decide
do
on that.
better.
uh, if
Mainit,
ang
eh,
nangyayari
mainit yan
tuloy,
sa
I can
agad.
level it up,
I
gano'n.
can make it
I
better.
can
I know
if they think
more.
they think, if the wrong impression, or at least the impression that's given by only a few, is the thing that keeps us out nga of these important places, tuloy we have to establish an identity for, and which is what romance class is trying to do, which is, ayan, so when we do episodes like this, when we attend talks and we talk about, oh, actually you can write this way, and then suddenly people want the books in the library and they want the books in classrooms because it actually presents the very same genre in a totally different way, and then suddenly they think, okay, oh, there was something pala worth discussing in that genre. Tapos parang, oo, actually, madami naman. Hindi lang
Tagal
kasi
na.
Tagal,
kayo
tagal
nagbabasa
na.
eh.
Oo.
Hindi kasi kayo
Feeling nyo kasi
nagbabasa.
cringe eh.
So,
Tas hindi naman namin nile-label as literary something, you know.
but that's a discussion that's like totally it's an important discussion that is like for the entire genre that we're also part of. So um yun. Okay. I would like to read pala Brianna's answer
Yes, I would like to
that.
hear this.
So about being an author is Filipino and writing Heat Level 4. In her case, Heat Level 4. So this is Brianna's answer. I live overseas, so I'm probably less concerned about stigma than I would be if I were still in the Philippines. That said, I had to push through my inner tita when I decided to publish. I'm very deliberate with the kinds of erotic tropes I set out to write. So it's a matter of trying to figure out how the characters in the story can make those possible. For my current work in progress, don't get excited. It's literally one scene and a vague synopsis. I've drafted the scene where the heroine reveals her, not necessarily her kink, but how she likes to have sex. And I try to make this be something that's a little bit or a lot taboo in terms of what we're told are norms for sex and romance. So it challenges the way we think about how Pinoys enjoy sex. Actually, I think I do always start there. Why does this story need to be level 4? What makes it level 4? And what is it about the characters that makes the sex scenes integral to the romance? First of all, and then how do the level 4 scenes also contribute to their individual characters? In Truth or Dare, I wanted a threesome where the two men actually touch and interact sexually with each other, so I had to think through what kind of scenario would lead to that and how to build enough context for the character so the reader could believe in the story and also have it be happy, fun sex rather than scary, jealous sex. I mean, I also love reading scary, jealous erotica, but that was not this story. Some other things I learned while writing Truth or Dare. I wrote a scene where Tino cuts someone off while driving so that I can force Cassie to kind of fall into Christian. But I didn't realize that this would be stressful to read for some people. I didn't know people would be so invested in researching whether a Mirage has enough room in the back
I
to
know.
make out. I love the level of accountability you all expect from authors. Readers love a backstory. I think this is the part I struggled with most. I wrote a paragraph on Tino's 21st birthday and thought I was done. I had two editors, and both of them told me to write more, and I did it very begrudgingly. Some readers probably feel it still wasn't enough. One of my beta readers told me that they weren't sure that Tino Christian sex was realistic, and in real life, the other guy might punch you if you tried what Christian did. So I went back and added a bit more nuance around Tino and Christian and their chemistry, and also that bit in the end where Tino realizes that maybe he committed a faux pas by not returning the favor. The biggest surprise for me was the appeal of Christian. To me, he's a MacGuffin, the catalyst for the romance, but ultimately unimportant. But
No!
everyone,
No!
Recurring character
everyone,
nga dapat eh.
but
Series.
everyone from my beta readers to my editors to uh, two readers of the published version have mentioned wanting to know more about him. And finally, I didn't realize the throwaway line about friend kissing would stand out to so many people. My first editor didn't comment on it, but my Filipino editor flagged it. And I think the read along chat had a discussion about what it means. Ultimately, there's a reason why Truth or Dare ended up being less than 15,000 words, and it's because I learned that I can't credibly write Filipino characters who live in the Philippines. I could get away with it by writing something very confined. But if I tried to build my characters' worlds outside of those confines, I would struggle to sound authentic. Non Filipino readers probably wouldn't notice or care, but if I'm going to ask romance class readers and authors to make room for my work, I don't want to abuse that privilege. But yes, in future, my characters will drive bigger cars. And that and that was Brianna's answer.
Pwede naman. Na-research na eh.
Suddenly picturing happening in a Star Rex or something.
Oo.
Wow.
O yan,
Innova.
laki ka na.
May nagsabi na Innova dapat.
Innova!
Ano ba?
Yeah,
Ganon.
so
Yung
thank you.
L300, yung seats na nahihiga.
L300.
Alam mo itong pinag-usapan.
You
Ano
need
tong
the room.
pinag-usapan natin? Sorry.
Yung nahihiga siya, tapos
I had to
get-
get up and do something.
Bigger car na. Sabi ni Brianna,
Bigger
in the
car daw.
future,
Kasi
bigger
ni-research
cars
mo
na
eh.
daw yung ida-drive ng characters niya.
Kaya naman, okay lang naman yung Mirage kasi in my head kasi Christian is huge.
Oo nga, ako rin eh.
So parang yung combination ni,
Where's the space?
parang saan yung space ni Kuya? Bumaba pa siya sa sahi.
Paano? Naka-push forward yung passenger.
Oo. Kawawa naman si... pwede kayo, sabi ko nga nung nag-read aloud, diba, I mentioned, pwedeng gumanon si Christian, maabot ni Stino.
Oo.
Gumanon siya.
Totoo.
Konting ganun lang.
Konting ganun lang niya, maabot
Traffic
ni Stino.
violation na
It would have
siya,
been
oo.
interesting, kaso ma-aksidente sila eh. Pero,
Oo.
Dapat pala may
Pero
beta
to
reader na
everyone.
na driver.
guys, I'm willing to volunteer
I volunteer
services.
all my time.
It's
as a
possible.
driver who has driven an Innova and a Wigo and a Altis.
And so
Ask
that
me
was
anything, Char.
all our prepared questions for the program. So we'll get to your questions in a second. But I'd like to thank everybody in the panel, Layla, Carla, and Chi, for agreeing to be on the panel. And to Brianna, thank you for your very thoughtful answers to the
Yay.
questions. And yon. Because this is what we want to talk about. Yeah. Logistics.
Oo, willing ako. I volunteer as tribute.
So, before we move on, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this stream, as in this stream where you're watching on YouTube. Please hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. We have stuff coming up, as in, I can't talk about it, but we have stuff coming up.
Teaser.
And if you're subscribed, you will get notified when this new stuff is coming up. So thank you so much. Thank you for watching this. And okay, let's have our first question from our Q&A. For our Q&A, when are we getting? This is from Instagram. When are we getting more heat level for titles? When are we getting? So Brianna hinted at a work in progress.
It's in the works.
Mukhang she
Pero
really-
matagal pa.
Oh my gosh, ang tagal nung yung isang libro niya, ang tagal. So and parang hindi siya nagpa-promise na this will be any faster, but mukhang she's aligning herself toward erotic romance talaga in heat level 4. So that's cool, to be devoted to one
Yung
to one heat
there
level.
as a person.
As a
As a person, nakaka-stress sundan yung truth or dare ng level 4 ng sarili kong level 4. Parang
It's true.
Oo, but mahirap din. So
I think ayun, at least it's there. So people can be encouraged by
I'll
it.
get there.
someday,
And
Naniniwala ako sa inyo. Malaki yung paniniwala ko sa inyo.
naniniwala
And
ka sa
if you
Nandito
look at
ako para sa
the
inyo.
if you watching now, look at the archives of this YouTube channel, you'll see a read along that we did. So we did a YouTube stream where some people read Truth or Dare by Brianna Ocampo on the stream and
It
reacted
was
to
so
it.
fun, guys. Go
It
watch
was
it.
really
Mm.
fun. So I think that kind of book, and even if it's not long, maybe because precisely it's not a long book, yeah, it's really fun to read along with friends. and, um,
Yeah.
and it's fun to have like a book club like discussion around it. So it's actually fun. And if you are interested in writing something like that, at least you see the kind of audience that you'll have with us as readers na masaya. Gusto
Oo.
naman namin ng ganong libro.
So, tina
Vibes, vibes. It's
tinatawagan
good
ko po ang
vibes.
lahat ng mga heat level 3 authors ko. Puwedeng-puwede na po kayo mag-level up. Opo, naghihintay na po ako.
Truth or
Bukas
Dare
po
live
ang aking
reading mo yan.
tanggapan.
Live
Pwede
reading na Truth
yan.
or Dare.
Pwede yan. Pwede
Tatlo
yan.
sila. Tatlo sila dapat.
Oo. We will we will risk COVID. Mahirap. Muntik.
Itataya namin ang aming kalusugan. Charot.
Oo.
Hindi,
No, no.
handa kaming ihain ang aming mga sarili.
Talagang nag-risk.
Gusto
Uy,
ko yun.
nagbibiro lang ako. Hindi tayo magre-risk ng COVID. But if we're able to come back and do live readings, yes, of course, we will have Truth or Dare as part of the list. Para saan pa ang pagbalik natin sa live event, di ba?
Kung hindi
Gotta
natin
Tumigilan lang.
gagawin.
We gotta do it when it's safe.
Oh my
When
God.
it's safe. Okay. Next question. Sorry. I guess nobody's committing to heat level 4 from this panel. I
Not yet.
guess.
Pero bukas ang aking tanggapan para sa nice. Ng suporta.
Okay. Next question, please. Okay, so this is from the chat earlier. Thank you so much for leaving this question from Paolo. What's quote unquote not good writing of sex scenes, or what are common mistakes by beginning writers when it comes to writing these scenes? So just taking off from, I have an answer, and just taking off from what they said, their process was, which is similar to mine, is I guess it's writing it as if writing it as if it's not the characters. Yung I don't know if I, this is probably something that will make more sense if you've written more than one story with different characters, but there should be, I think, when I'm reading a sex scene, I should be able to read them and know that it's these two characters who are doing that scene together. And if the same author has a different story, the scenes would actually be different, or it would be written differently, and the characters, a different set of characters, would actually do things differently in a different book. So minsan kasi parang if it feels yun, we were talking about mechanics versus feelings. If it feels so mechanical in that you don't really see the characters anymore, and actually you cannot tell which book you're in because because nothing in the scene actually parang mentions the characters or who they are, parang ganun, then that's not good to me. And then of course there's just the basic not good of at least for romance class, yung if the consent is actually questionable. But that's for romance class. Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
answers for this, friends? What's
Ayun
not
yung
good?
yun nga, as I
Common
mentioned
mistake.
before, was like, puro action. And no
Walang
feelings.
feelings.
Oo. Kasi it's a romance. So you have to have feelings there. Because it's all part of their journey as a couple eh. That's supposed to, diba? That's the role of the sex scene. You will show the development of their relationship on a physical level. So, there has to be feelings. There has to be. Tsaka, yun nga, yung parang the mundane, um, yung what's happening there. You have to be able to show your characters in that moment, as authentic uh, way as possible. Parang ganon. So
Right.
pag
And
hindi, it takes you out. Eh, yung halimbawa like yung umaarte sila yan ng, for instance, their character when they're not having sex is like yung goody two shoes, ganyan ganyan. Tapos biglang sa sex scene
Nagbago yung ugali.
nagmumura, oo, yung parang ganon,
Mm.
yung
That is a common mistake, and I don't know if writers
is
are
that is that
know
are
that
correct?
they're
aware.
making it. I
Yeah.
don't
I
know if they're aware.
I I have thoughts about it.
Yes.
No, because yung you know that thing, the whole lady in the street, freak in the sheets type thing.
Oh,
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
parang
Yeah.
ganon.
kasi I think they misinterpreted, some writers misinterpret that
Some
in
other
a way na
don't do
tipong
it well.
parang, oo, because you
literally
can
ibang
do it,
tao yung
oo,
nasa
literally
Oo.
streets,
ibang
and then
tao.
ibang
It's
tao
not
yung
like
nasa
that. Oo,
streets.
kasi it's not like that. Parang, kasi dapat you have, as a writer, di ba, you have the power to like introduce nuance, you know, in this person's daily life na parang you're gonna sneak in some Easter eggs there. Like before the
Mm-mm.
first time you reveal na freak in the sheet siya. Pero like
Mm-mm.
very, put together, or
Proper
like
or
demure
whatever.
in proper demure in person.
Or or
You
it has to have
introduce things, di ba? Parang
or it has to have an effect kasi once you know,
oo.
parang ang dating, dapat may effect siya kasi
Yeah,
ito
it
yung
has
akala mo
Oo.
sa kanya, and
it
then
has to
nagbago
fit.
yung tingin mo. That has to have
Oo.
an effect when
Right.
they're back
There are
on the
threads,
street.
there are threads. Everything is tied together.
Yes.
Parang everything you introduce should make sense. It can't just be na tipong parang you have portrayed this person as Layla and then biglang as someone else. Sino yan? Parang biglang Layla, 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 Layla. Pagdating dun sa dark scene, who?
Mm.
Sino?
Parang
Tas after nun, balik na naman siya as Layla na parang walang naging
Oo.
effect yung nangyari.
Parang
Alam mo
wala
yun?
nangyari. Oo.
parang parang an extreme example nun is si Love and Leashes ng Netflix. Parang I
Oh,
enjoyed the way they did it. Now they were doing like things na you don't normally do. Pero
mm,
parang it was still them. It was still very much the two characters interacting.
yeah,
And may consequences yung the things that they did
Yeah.
on their
Mm.
everyday
yeah.
relationship. So parang hindi sila different people when they're having sex. They are themselves.
Mm.
Tas, ayun. Tas, interesting din.
It's a
Kasi,
different part of themselves, but it's not a
yes.
different person. Parang gano'n.
Oo. Oo. It parang, yun nga, when they do something, they discuss it, or when the female character is uncomfortable, ano sila,
Mm.
may discussions after. Parang I enjoyed the way they, parang medyo extreme siya, pero I enjoyed
Yeah.
that movie for that aspect in particular. Tapos parang naisip ko rin, essentially, even if you're writing the same choreography for certain books, like for example, like, if limited yung knowledge mo, ulit-ulitin mo yung certain things. Pero when it has to read different pa rin, kasi it's different
Yeah.
people doing the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So parang maybe iba yung, like, the character prefers it a different way, or like intensity is different,
The
pero it's still
reactions
the
are
same.
different.
Yeah, oo. What will turn one character on is different from what will turn another character on, even if they're doing the same thing, essentially. So, yung reverse nun is, it's not good when hindi mo nakilala kung sino yung, sino to? Who are these two people having sex? Suddenly, I don't know them. Parang ganun.
And I guess it's a thing if you're an author and then you're writing several books because you have fans na and you have readers, and then sila pa yung makakabasa nung repetitiveness of your
Mm.
of your scenes kasi sila yung
Mm.
supporter mo, yung sila yung makakabasa every
Yeah.
time you write a scene na. But also, as a reminder, you don't have to write it if you don't want
Yeah.
to.
Mm.
You
Don't be
actually
No,
pressured.
I was gonna say nga na parang one mistake din nga na if you, parang
You
you feel
force mo.
forced to write it.
yeah.
So
Don't
you
do.
end up writing something na in real life you're uncomfortable with just because you think you should write it. Because it comes out.
Yeah, nahalata.
We know. when we read we know you're uncomfortable about what you're writing. Parang you may
Yeah,
think it doesn't,
yeah.
it doesn't come
Oo.
out. It does. The reader will
Halata.
know na you were not comfortable in
And
writing that.
even me as an editor, I will
Yeah.
know.
You don't have
You
to
I
force
will tell
yourself
you.
to do it. If you don't want
I
to,
will tell you.
di ba? If you don't want
It's
to,
okay.
whether
Let's
kung
take
like
this out.
So I think
principle
yung
or
what we're
skill or
trying to do,
whatever.
parang even if we're talking about writing heat level 3, what we're still trying to do is parang bring out the best story. So
Mhm.
sometimes that requires diba, the push to write a good scene. And then sometimes it's realizing that, oh, you don't need this right now. You're not
Yeah.
ready for it. But the story actually is great on
It's
its own.
okay.
So
Yeah.
hindi siya kailangan. Yeah.
No shame.
So do we have our next question?
Yes. Sagot
Yes.
agad.
Do you have a movie from Tanya? Do you
Yes,
have a
yes.
movie playing in your head as you write a TV scene, as Layla describes it?
Yes.
I also
Yes.
remember like
Yes.
Yes.
scenes I've seen or heard that I felt was so hot, and then I try to in yung story ko, I try to incorporate that. So
Even just yung I guess yun nga, as we learned talking to other authors in the community na ang people just write differently. So
Mhm.
minsan hindi visual yung author, so they really will just write all feelings, feelings. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what things look like. you just know what you just know
What
what
did you
people
feel?
are. Uh, you don't
It's
know.
an indie film.
You,
It's an Oo. Di, and the
di ba?
eternal sunshine of the spotless mind type of
Di
thing
ba?
na,
Baka hindi
Uh,
pa later yung
oo.
time.
like psychedelic feelings and
Baka
explosions of color, ganyan. Oo.
time might actually be stretched and not
Yeah.
consistent. So, may ganun
I
kasi na
like
writer.
reading those sometimes. Oo.
Oo, may mood naman yun. So, may
The
ganun. So, it's
vibe.
hard. So, ano yun? And actually, even naman now we're learning, diba? Even like movie sex scenes are not the best or are not created under the best of circumstances either. So it's okay to not base what you're doing on even the best thing that you've seen.
Mhm.
Pero it helps yun nga. Kasi eventually, if you do have an editor who will ask you about your blocking and if this is possible. And if, di ba, the car that you mentioned can fit
can accommodate these activities.
o can accommodate na ganyan. Siyempre, parang, okay, if you actually thought visually about it in the beginning, you might not have to fix too many things. Parang ganun. But if you don't think that way or don't write that way, you can find naman somebody who will help you out na parang siya yung magmamind nung details for you. So you can just write your feelings.
Sometimes yung mechanics tinetest ko in real life but not in the fun way. Yung tipo tatayo lang ako sa may dingding. Paano ba to?
Sayang, kala ko naman
Yung height ng kama, tama ba
Alam ko
to?
kung ano yung ikikwento mo.
Not in the fun way
oo nga.
nga. Not in the fun way.
Sayang.
Yung tipong
Di ba
nasa
kasi-
kwarto
in
lang
a-
ako, parang
Baka
Ice
naman
squint,
pwede.
ano,
paano
Kung
ba
nag-ready
reach
ka
ng
for
kamay ko saan
science.
ba? Like, oo. Abot ba yung balakang ko dito sa desk na to? Ano sa, yung mga ganong, abot ba? Kaya ba?
And sorry, we keep bringing up the Mirage and stuff, but actually, you're still the author, ha? Hindi,
Oo.
Yeah!
I mean, ano ngayon kung maliit yung kotse?
Okay lang yun. It's fine.
Wala naman kaming magagawa. Kami lang naman yung
Scandalize
reader.
lang kami.
Yeah.
Oo.
We don't,
Like,
in the grand
guys,
scheme of things, we
you
just
have to
read
Actually,
it.
ang totoo nun, gusto natin i-try lahat.
You have
diba?
to understand, I am squishy. It was an issue for me trying to imagine
Oo.
because I am squishy.
Even if, di ba, even if
Ako din, I
mag-nitpick,
am a fluffy.
even if
Yeah.
mag-nitpick tayo as
Oo.
readers, yung author pa rin naman yung magde-decide. And and when you encounter stuff like this, parang you can just ignore. And then yun
Gawin
yan,
mo
take
sa
note.
e-bike, it's fine.
Take note for the next time. Okay lang
If you
yun.
want to.
Mahilig lang
E-bike,
tayo
pwede
sa
yung e-bike. Yung
details.
e-bike na may cover, meron yun.
May e-bike?
Tayo.
Ano to?
Hoy! Saan mo naman?
Try nyo.
Exhibitionist lang
Someone.
tayo. Exhibitionist.
Someone. Tricycle.
Challenge.
Alam ko meron yan sa tricycle.
Meron yan sa movie, Filipino movie. Nalimutan ko na ano
Oo,
pinatuloy.
oo,
Pero
oo,
meron sa
totoo.
tricycle.
Hindi ko
Umuulan.
alam kung paano nangyari yun.
Oo.
Umuulan, may tarp yung ano.
Oo, yun. Anyway, you can do what you
Oh,
want.
hindi. Kasi pag gate, medyo mahirap matigas yung gate. Eh. Pag tarp, medyo kayo
Dun sa
wiggle
may
room.
Anyway, it's a
Ah,
Filipino
so parang
movie. I
create
swear,
room.
nalimutan ko lang
Oo.
ano to. Totoy Mola ba yun?
Pero,
Hindi ko na maalala.
Pero,
Ano kayang libro to? Parang,
No, it's a
parang ano.
movie. It's a movie. It's a tricycle movie yun. Hindi ko alam kung Totoy Mola ba yun. Anyway.
Seems like it would be.
I mean, it tracks. Yeah,
Oo.
Tracks, oo.
diba?
Thank you for that question.
Naalala-
May
No, but,
may
no, but
answer.
I
Yeah.
remember si Liana, di ba?
Ah,
She
okay.
used
Prof,
Okay.
Prof, thank you. Oo.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Yeah,
for
tama.
answering
Thank
the
you.
question.
Tricycle.
Galing.
So the
okay.
movie is actually Frosty. Okay.
Salamat.
Si
We
Liana
were
did that
having-
before. She was telling us about this book. I don't know if she was editing it. Tapos parang yung sexy ni sex.
Yes, water,
Diba,
water.
naalala?
Breathe. Parang ganun.
What?
Oo. May ganun ba?
Parang you can
So-
feel the escalation daw, pero parang,
So however much you feel about your sex scene, it's still gonna be better.
it's valid.
So,
Okay. Do we have another question from the chat? From Tara. Do you have any advice for Filipino authors who want to write Heat Level 3 but are worried about getting judged by friends and family who might read their work? O, share ko. Mag-share ako.
Hindi na experience.
sabi nabasa ni tita, charot.
The very first book kasi I published had, yun, Heat Level 1, I guess, or
Yung Fade to Black.
ano siya, Fade to Black siya. And actually it was mentioned, but they it was just mentioned that it happened, and then I didn't write the scene. But yun, I got feedback from
Oh.
kasi yun, like family members who were uncomfortable with the fact that I had written it, which means they had read it. And then, and also friends who were uncomfortable, parang they wanted to support me, pero they were uncomfortable, parang knowing me in real life and then reading a scene
Right.
like that. And what the advice that I would give, and of course, the journey is different per person, is hindi sila yung reader mo. and it's okay. I think a lot of authors, kasi when they start out, they want their friends and family to be able to support them and buy their work. But I think this is something that you would realize siguro earlier on if you write online or if you post fic or if you write anything online under a pen name, is these are your readers. You do it for the reader. And eventually what happened with me, but I did go through a phase na parang, sige, I have to be the kind of writer that my friends and family would be proud of for whatever reason. And I tried to make that into my thing. But actually, eventually, parang, you will decide what kind of writer you want to be and who's actually reading your books. And eventually, you will tailor what you write to the actual audience and the actual readers. And then, yun, parang yung sinabi ni Carla earlier na eventually your family members will have to decide for themselves whether to continue reading or supporting you or not. Because the truth is, a lot of this support from family is actually just family being nice or family being
Yeah.
supportive.
Yeah.
They don't actually read your
And it doesn't
stuff.
help
They
you.
don't have to.
Oo.
Also, they don't have to. Like,
Yeah.
they don't
Mm-mm.
owe you their support, and you don't owe them free copies.
Yeah, so don't message them on Facebook and
Diba?
tell them to buy your book. It's not.
Don't
No,
make it
that's
into a
weird.
marketing strategy. Don't.
Oh God.
Just don't do it.
Na sila lang yung
Oo, na
magbabasa.
bibenta ko yung and you're like, expecting them to buy your book. It's
It's
not
not gonna
a
happen,
good
see. I'm
Hindi
sorry.
it's
ko
not
kaya.
a good marketing strategy.
It, di ba?
I
But
can't.
that's,
Find your
again, this is
readers.
very specifically yung romance writing, ha. Parang
Yeah.
feeling ko kasi talaga this is a genre with an audience, with readers.
Right.
And if may intersection of your friends and family actually reading romance, then great. Pero hindi sila yung main
That's
na
yeah.
hindi sila yung main na readers mo.
Uh,
For romance, ha. I think for other genres, yes,
no, but even
you
me,
might actually need to be supported by friends and family if you write something
yeah.
else.
All about
But
nonfiction, diba? But for
yeah,
me,
I
like even
guess.
with poetry, like my late grandma, God bless her soul, she was asking me na parang, oh, where's your book? We wanna buy, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, no, you
No.
don't. No, you
Yeah.
I
don't.
had
You
I
don't
had
And
wanna.
sometimes,
I had to decide din eh kasi like yung vibe eh. I had a younger cousin nun eh na discovered it somehow. Found me, whatever. Wanted to buy it. I had to decide for like a few minutes. Parang, bibentahan ko ba ito? Pinsa.
tapos
Okay lang naman.
minsan,
Okay lang.
pero minsan, di
Binentahan ko
ba,
siya.
the fact that they're interested, but
Yeah.
minsan, the fact that they're
Without
interested,
prompting.
the
Oo.
fact that they want to support you, and the fact that they are into that kind of book, 'di ba? Baka that might actually lead to a more interesting
Yeah.
dynamic.
Right, right. Yung ako sobrang
Because
funny. Kasi diba early on
especially
I
if it's
said, na
especially
parang,
if it has anything to do with being accepted for certain things, 'di ba? Baka
Right.
sila pala yung ally mo in
unexpectedly. Oo.
unexpected in the family for whatever reason. Oh. Yes,
So,
Carla,
so
you were
diba,
saying.
I have this rule nga na their family is allowed to read but don't talk to me about it. Um,
Wag mo ako
ang nang,
feedback.
I don't
Don't
need
give
your
me
feedback.
feedback.
Parang, don't force yourself. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Parang, ang nangyari sa akin was kind of the opposite na yung, I had a tita who went to MIBF when we were there. Nag-boost tayo. Then pumunta siya.
Oh.
And she was saying na, I'm gonna buy a book. I'm gonna buy a book. And I said, don't buy a book, tita. Don't buy a book. And siya pa yung nag-reassure sa akin na, don't worry, I used to read Mills and Boone when I was younger. I get it. Parang it's okay. Tapos parang, okay, tita, here.
And here pa po.
Sige na, tita, pero wag na natin pag-usapan, ha? Pero yeah, like,
Yun.
yung sinasabi natin about parang if your friends and family are the only people buying your book, it's not gonna help you in the long
No.
run.
Nope.
Kasi like, where's the constructive criticism? Where's the feedback? Kinuha mo lang pera nila for
So
It's the
what we
wrong
know,
marketing strategy.
what we
It's
know
the wrong
based on
I
experience,
just
at
do
least
this.
what,
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Power through.
Stay alive.
so what we know from romance class, our community based on experience and what we've sold to people is, so we kind of know poetry because of Layla, because of Dawn, Don Lanuza, who published poetry, and then us because we publish romance, and by extension YA. We know that the audience for it is huge, and not just our friends and family. You will actually have a better career orienting yourself toward finding support beyond friends and family. So if that means getting rid of the hang up that what will my friends and family think of me, if that of course holds you back in such a way na that's not kasi the kind of writer that you are the kind of writer who writes in a way that your friends and family will enjoy your work, then that's who you are. That's okay. Okay din yun, di ba?
Yeah.
Okay
But
din
also,
yun.
but also you can always use pseudonyms. So,
Yeah. But if you're and the community that we have supports that. So yun na, for example, someone like Brianna, who someone like Brianna who writes under a pen name because of reasons, we can we will still read the book. We will
Yeah.
still talk about it, and I'm guessing I don't know who among Brianna's friends and family are reading this, but she can have a career in this if she wants to without um without worrying about uh, without worrying about what people will think of of her book. It's okay. You can. There are ways if this is really something you want to do. Yun. Do we have another question from the chat? From Ella. Ano po para sa inyo ang isang perfect na love scene sa book?
Nakita ko
Parang
din yung kanina na pa,
oo. Perfect na love scene. Do you have an answer for this?
It has all the elements. Like it has the feelings, it has the heat, it has the hotness, and gusto ko merong after.
Yes, important.
After. Yung what happens after. Ano
When
na
the
yung
walls are
dynamic
broken
nila-
down, ano na,
Ano na yung dynamic nilang dalawa. So, yun. Basta it has to be sweet and steamy and
May comment si Ansel. At least 3 somethings.
I mean, is anybody counting? But yeah.
ako, okay lang sa akin yung hindi, like, yung walang through line in the scene, na parang tipong, yung dinedescribe mo lahat, like, from beginning
Mhm.
to end. Parang, minsan the way my brain processes things, sobrang effective sa akin nung, yung movie type, yun nga, it plays in my head.
Nagsifill in the
Parang,
blanks ka.
Parang
wala,
montage,
parang
ganon.
cutscenes. Oo, parang
Mm.
cutscenes. One moment, ito yung dinedescribe mo, papasok pa lang sila, biglang, pak, kwarto.
Anong pa?
Tama. Alam mo yung,
Fuck?
Dot,
parang hindi siya,
kwarto,
oo,
dot,
it
dot,
doesn't,
dot.
oo, it's not always parang necessary for it to be, to put everything on paper. You know, for me. Yun yung perfect
Pwedeng
sa akin na
mag-fill in the
parang,
blanks.
it's very, my brain parang processes broken scenes na parang it's very exciting, dynamic for me, parang ganun. So yun yung gusto ko. Yun nga, a balance of feelings and mechanics always. Ayun.
Ako, I like an escalation. Wow!
Yes.
God!
Yung parang it always feels like like actual sex. Ang sex scene, parang may nag-grow siya and then mag-explode in a moment. And then yung
nag-grow?
super
Explode?
gentle. Literally, almost sometimes literally.
Explode?
Parang tas bababa siya into yung super calm after scene. Parang a really good, the perfect love scene brings you through all of those ebbs and flows. And yun nga, yung may physical reaction ako dapat na yung talagang namimilipit na ako sa sobrang kilig. Parang gano'n. Hindi ko siya ma-quantify, pero it's a
Yung
feeling you get.
No, oo. Sa akin yung i-challenge yung MRT face ko. Yung ganong level.
Yung reading in public na pa. Yung parang
Kasi
nabasa mo
MRT
tapos
face is just, ganyan ka lang. Pag may nag-challenge doon, parang, good job.
That's how you know.
yung parang magbablush ka kasi
Oo.
yung mga nasa paligid mo parang
yung kailangan mo ibaba.
Nakikita ba ng katabi ko yung binabasa ko yung mga ganon.
NSFW, ganyan.
Ako yung, I don't know kung perfect, pero what I really like is yung when I learn something, yung when I'm reading that scene, and then I learn something about the character. And then, and madali lang yun actually for an author. It's such an easy trick for an author to do, is just to introduce some new character thing there in that scene. Kasi it's perfect. Sila lang dalawa yun nandun. It's very intimate. It can be a physical thing, like literally what they look like, what certain things look like.
Ay, may hinal pala siya sa likod.
Or something. Basta something, it's actually, yun, I mean, for me, talking about it now, it's actually just such a simple trick. But I like, and it can be a super simple thing also. Like ano yan? Like just a little character reveal. Okay na sa akin yun. Natutuwa na ako doon. Like and then uh
And then parang
and then
secret
when
nilang dalawa, gano'n.
and then when you pick, and then the way that later, and it's nice that it's done in that scene because it's not a reveal that anyone else has seen or anyone else knows actually. So once that happens in the story, you already have like a secret that only the two of them know. And
Right.
maganda if you build on that na yun. So we have in romance class books nga parang um it's not even like yung ano yun? Feels like summer ni Six de los Reyes, yung like the really messy period because may Picos yung
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
So it's not even a sex scene, but the only reason why he knows about it is is because he stayed over.
Mm.
And she has a really like messy period, and then he helps her yung parang the only reason why he even knows about it is because of the access he has because of their
Mm.
relationship. And
Right.
then he helps her and ganon. So parang just that. And then afterwards, parang they carry that with them na. Kasi,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, so when this happened to me, this is what he does. Yung stuff like that na what you learn about somebody because of that setting and because of that parang special relationship that you have. Yun. So if a writer is able to put something like that, very simple pero it's there and then it carries through to the end. Yun, perfect siya for
Perfect.
me. madali lang ako matuwa. Do we have other questions? Oh, does anyone have anything to add pala for that? Before we move on to chaotic verses.
Oh my.
O, yung nagsabi niya na magsasalita.
Nauna si Carla. Si Carla nag-bring up ng soft sex.
Okay, so that's our last question. Can we have our last question? Please expound on chaotic versus soft. Carla, what did you mean by this?
So, kailangan akong magbigay ng example, gano'n.
Oo, paano siya naging soft?
Parang, okay, may very distinct memory of reading a Tessa Bailey book na parang, I think they do it against a wall. And alam mo yung parang in 2015, very into alpha characters yung mga people. So talaga, it was very rough and it was very
Rough.
described roughly na parang, yeah, we were doing it. So, whoa, wait lang.
Hindi mo magkakapasa sa likod yung MC, gano'n, no?
Oo, yung tipong, like, masakit siya. Parang masakit yung ginagawa nila.
Pero fun,
parang
pero
yun nga,
masakit. Oh.
pero fun siya. Like, even, parang thinking about it, comparing it to yung mga BDSM scenes sa Love and Dishes, she was literally like stepping on him and whipping him and whatever. But it still felt very intimate and soft and romantic. It could be the lighting because Koreans are so good at it. Pero parang,
Yung lighting, soft lighting lang pala yung difference.
oo, yun lang pala yung difference. Pero parang, mas may connection yung two characters in a soft scene, I would say. Parang, mas present silang dalawa in the moment. Not na hindi present yung two characters like going chaotically at each other. Pero, I think, I guess, parang personally, mas may soft spot ako for softer scene. Yun.
Yung parang distinction between chaotic and soft is one of the reasons why we when we redid the heat levels, diba, we got rid of when we did the heat levels, we used to call them parang sweet, steamy,
Right.
whatever. And then we removed it kasi nga
Yeah.
may
May judgment.
oo, parang
May
kung
judgment
soft
factor.
kung soft pa, hindi na siya high heat.
Not as good.
Pero actually, pwede namang high heat pero soft.
Mm.
Or
Mm-mm.
low heat pero pero grabe grabe
Feminine.
sila, ang intense nila mag-isip. Parang gano'n.
Oo, oo.
Wala
Parang
si Doc Anjali sa chat eh, pero
Siya yung nag-imbento ng genre na yun. Oo.
zero.
na
And then,
Heat level
na
zero,
was
tapos
replied,
YA, tapos
YA
because,
heat level
ano,
zero, tapos
yung
ganun. Wala
intense na
eh.
heat level nila.
Oo.
So
Wild.
may so may gano'n. Just and but we had to parang go through that also as Filipinos because I think when we were writing it, parang one of the things that we were self-conscious about was, are we doing this wrong? Diba? Are we writing YA wrong? Are we writing adult romance wrong? Which is why we were encouraging yung heat level zero na adult romance kasi we didn't want the adult romance, right? So if anyone's writing adult romance, we didn't want them to think that it necessarily included high heat. Kasi pwede namang hindi. So we had to go through that na actually, we don't have to think of it as us writing it wrong, but think of it as, let's create these levels na adult romance siya pero zero or YA siya pero
Pero
parang 3.
YA siya pero medyo intense, whatever.
Oo.
You can
nakuha sa
think of
tingin.
it. You can think of it with that nuance and be able to describe it in a way na madali siyang, na at least the reader understands what they're buying or reading. And I think nakakatulong. I mean, based on our experience yung heat level. So uh we can actually pull up the heat level chart if it's available, just because we keep talking about it. So that's the heat level chart. So zero. When we say zero, it means no sex on or off the page. So it's not part of the story at all. Period. One is that it happened in the story, but it's not mentioned. It happened in the story and it's mentioned, but you don't write it. The writer doesn't write it at all. Heat level two is that there is some writing of it, but not at some point it fades to black. Heat level three is what we're talking about, which is on page, we're writing it. And then heat level four is, I guess, more, there's more exploration of eroticism and kink, but you still have a main relationship. So this is exploring higher heat levels, but still in the context of romance. Now there is still a couple that will choose each other at the end. So yeah, so those are heat levels. And since we started classifying the books, it actually helps, especially when you know, like submitting our books to be selected for discussions in classes, or being part of a syllabus, or being purchased by a community library. It's at least, even without reading the books, they can look at the heat level and decide which one they is appropriate for their audience. So this is just helpful. So yeah. Um, so okay. Yeah. So I think we got all of our questions, and we have been uh it's 2 hours. So our stream has gone on for two
An
hours.
average length of the session.
oo nga.
So thank you so much. So thank you so much to the authors who joined the panel. Thank you to Brianna for submitting your responses. So when we record a podcast episode, it ends up on uh our podcast feeds, which shows up on everywhere where people get their podcasts. And I thought this was an interesting conversation to have, especially because it's it's like always getting forgotten. Like in 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 2022, guys. It's 2022, guys, and I hope that people remember that this is a thing that we write, and so many of us are writing it. Especially nga if you look at just what's online, what's on Wattpad, what's in Filipino authors are really contributing so much of this kind of writing to romance. So we're just reminding people that we're here, and
And we're
it's
everywhere.
we're here, we're everywhere, and it's not new. You are, if this is something you want to write, and if it's something you're interested in writing, there is a community, and many communities actually of Filipino authors who are writing this and going through the same, um, the same internal struggle, or drama,
Pwede rin
or
external, sumisigaw, gano'n.
external drama. Then, um, and uh, and I guess I wanted this conversation out there. So any aspiring authors also know that there is an audience for it. There are so many readers for it. So you don't have to worry about writing something and it's for nothing. Because no one, because you can't tell your friends or family about it.
Someone
Madaming
else will read
readers.
it.
Yeah.
Madaming
Nandito lang
readers po.
kami.
Yeah.
So So, thank you, everyone. We'll have links to the books that these authors have written in the show notes, and we mentioned. I think we should add like love and links to the other things that we mentioned, like love and leashes and Brianna's book, just stuff that we mentioned as examples of things. So, yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, friends.
Bye.
Bye.